But what happens then is that you ask them, look at
But
the
even all the contribution
actual money
of
itself
projects that
then.
we're pursuing.
Yeah.
Put huge energy into
And at that stage,
projects where
analysis where it goes up from there. Oh, you're very welcome to our live webcast. This is just one of our series in the weekly webcast that we're doing on organisational change here from Communique International. My name is Peter Finnegan. I'm the Managing Director of Communique International, and we've got a good panel of people here this morning to discuss a very important topic. We've got Martin Farrelly here with us. Martin's a constant member here of the panel. We've got Mick O'Connell. We've got Frank Drum, Ashley Hughes, and a very special guest this morning. We've got Tony McArdle. Our discussion this morning is in and around the whole area of the financing of the restructuring. And the reason we have Tony here is that Tony's got great experience from both sides of the table, if we could put it that way. Tony was an executive director of the Ulster Bank Group. Started off life as your friendly, if that's what you could call it, bank manager, if there are any of those left around.
Well, I lent you money, so...
Went from there to commercial banking, and went from there then to into corporate banking, and then up to the top table, Tony. And then from there, then Tony has now left the bank, and he's a non-executive director with PLCs and SME companies, and an advisor as well. So Tony, you're very well qualified to talk about what we're talking here this morning.
I hope so.
So one of the things we're looking at the whole notion of organisational change, as we said, and we've talked about the planning for it, we've talked about the communication of it, we've talked about all restructuring plans, then we looked at redundancies, and then how the company might lift off afterwards. But one of the fundamental things, of course, this is all about money in the end of the day. So one of the fundamental things we thought we'd look at today is the money end of things, in terms of if you're going to restructure, is it worth it? Or do you know if it's worth it? Then we're going to look at banks, important things of going to banks, which are plans, how do you get money out of the banks, and particularly these days. And after that, then another area we want to cover is that about getting paid, because we're all in business to get money in and getting it paid. And we have Tony here today. The panel here wouldn't pretend to be financial experts, but they are, like more than the rest of us, they're involved in organisational change, and we can, I suppose, get the best out of Tony today. One of the things, Tony, is a fascinating thing, around business people generally, people who are running businesses, I remember talking to you about this one stage, and you were saying to me it's surprising the number of businesses that are not really on top of the financial figures. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I'm surprised that for you that you've had 5 or 6 of these and you only now come to talk about money. So that used to be the case. You used to talk about money on the first time I met you. Certainly, I think that in most situations where if people would phone me, say, the bank's not going to give me any more money, I'm running out of money, what's happening? And I think that people generally in business are very, very interested in making those bonds, getting them, where am I getting the raw materials, getting them out, getting them delivered, can I get them out on time? And of course, John or Mick or Ashley is going to pay me. But they mightn't pay you, and it's not because they're bad people, it's just they might let you down because they can't help letting you down because somebody didn't pay you them. Yeah. So that if you're going to restructure your business, you're looking to restructure your business, you have to restructure yourself as well. What have I been doing for the last while? And I've generally found that people are obsessed with their business, but they're not obsessed with the financials of the business. And if you're the owner of a business, you need to get obsessed with the financials of the business. Absolutely obsessed. How much cash goes out here every day, and how much cash do I get in every day? So what do I need to sell every day and get in every day just to make me viable? Because you can't say, it'll come in all right. If I work hard, it'll be all right. It might, and it happens, but it might not in the current environment. People just can't afford to pay it.
But are you seriously saying it's like people playing a football match and not looking at the scoreboard?
Exactly. Yeah. People working very hard. If you case like, I recently met somebody and they were making, for confidence, they were making a good few £100,000 of profit. And they said to me, the bank are bouncing our checks. This is desperate. I've been with that bank for years. And I said, well, hold on, why are they bouncing your checks? I just, I don't know. I have the accounts there. Look, there's the profit. I said, where is the 500,000? Where is the 500,000? And the problem with that is that £500,000 plus their depreciation, they had a cash coming in, say, in a year of say 700 grand. But they were their repayments to the bank were at 300 grand. They were spending 200,000 or 250,000 a year on repairs to machines. And then when you looked at their working capital, it increased by another £400,000 because people were taking extra weeks to pay them, and their creditors who weren't able to get credit insurance were shortening the credit. So if you did a graph on these people, that's the bank would probably do, you'd see that in 2 years' time they were going to run out of money. Even though they were making money, they were going to run out of cash.
Right.
So profit is a concept, but cash is real.
Okay, just in terms of... Sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
I was just going to ask you, Tony, so when you have a situation like that, in your experience, how much of that information is getting communicated to staff on the ground in terms of the reality of the situation?
I'd say we're talking about small businesses, medium-sized businesses. I'd say in the majority, I would think, very little of it. Or it might be communicated in a way that people don't understand. Because if I'm making boxes and you're telling me about financial ratios, so you might as well be telling me about anything, so I don't know. And I think we need to involve more people in it because, the question that naturally follows from that is to the extent, how do you understand the numbers yourself? Because if I'm making boxes, I'm not a finance director, so how do I understand the numbers? And you have to bring it back to how much money comes in every week here and how much cash goes out every week. And when cash goes out, it's like the rent, the rates, the car insurance, the expenses for the rep, it's the repairs to the machine, it's the leasing, it's the repayments on the loans, and it's the capital and interest repayments, the capital repayment on the loan. So your finance person needs to give you that on a weekly basis and a monthly basis. How much cash goes out here? It's at £3,469, and then say on average selling what we sell is, say, we sell 15 grand a week. Do we make that much profit? The second is, when are we going to get it in? Yeah. So where am I going to finance it in the meantime? So it's not complicated, but I think sometimes the way accounts are presented to you, they are complicated. You don't understand them because we have brackets and stuff without brackets. Do I add or subtract that? But really, I would ask my finance guys to tell me a piece of paper, a line down the middle, how much cash goes out here every month, and how much do we need to sell to make that? And you should know that.
That sounds very complicated, Tony. I went to a course once. I had to make a presentation to a bank. And all I remember about it is that if I'm going to make a presentation to a bank, I have to have a big folder and it has to have a good bit of binding on it. Is that the story?
Well, it is. It is.
Could we just park that for a second? Sure, we're going back to the actual presentation to the bank, and I'm trying to keep this kind of in a straight line, if you don't mind. So at the minute, we're looking at basically the cost maybe of the whole redundancy package and for this work. We'll certainly come to that, Frank. Okay. I'll have it down here. We'll come to how we work with banks in a second. We're just keeping it on what you were talking about, getting the figures in and understanding the figures as part of the restructuring thing. Looking at the restructuring thing then in an overall sense, how do you work out whether it's worth it or not? You get, it's going to cost you for redundancies. It's going to cost you to bring in consultants to project manage the thing for you, because that's probably the best way of doing it in the end of the day. So there's going to be a cost factor in all of this anyway. How do you work out whether this is actually worth it or not?
Yeah, it's not an exact science how it's worth it, but I would say that if it costs you say £200,000 to do your restructuring, and you weren't getting that 200,000 back within 2 years, you should seriously look at whether it's worthwhile or not.
2 years?
Yeah, 2 years. And at the best, maybe 15, 16 months. But if it goes more than 2 years, you should say, is there another problem that restructuring won't solve? Is there a fundamental problem in this business that those buns are not what people want anymore?
Yes.
But you should be able to get it back within 2 years.
And what about the cost of not doing it?
Pardon?
What about the cost of not doing it?
Well, again, the cost of not doing it, you'd assess that in the same way as you assess the cost of doing it. And I would do 4 graphs for my business, just 4 graphs. I'd get some. What's my turnover now? What's my gross profit now? And what's left? Extrapolate that for the next 6 months or 12 years. What will that gross profit be, and what will the cost be? And what's the direction of those lines? It's not where they are in exact pounds and pence. I think sometimes we drive ourselves